participants. In the season, we will talk about humanitarian security in natural disasters and crises. Today we are together with three important names. Dr. Recep Şehitoğlu from Gaziantep University and Farrukh Khakimov, Head of Department at Development Strategy Center, and Dr. Aidar Kurmashev, Kazakhstan Institute for Strategic Studies. Dr. Recep Şehitoğlu received his undergraduate education and master's degree in the program of international relations at Cyprus International University. He completed his PhD in political science and international relations at Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University. Currently, he is working at Gaziantep University as faculty member in Faculty of Economic and Administrative Sciences and Associate Dean at Faculty of Economic and Administrative Sciences in Elbap, Syria. And Farrukh Khakimov, Mr. Farrukh Khakimov is Head of Department on Foreign Policy and Security at the Development Strategy Center, Uzbekistan. He holds international master degree in international relations and security studies from the University of Glasgow, jointly awarded with Dublin City University and Charles University in Prague. Mr. Khamikov's areas of research interest are world politics, geopolitics, Central Asian region, and digitalization process in Central Asia. And Dr. Aidar Kurmashev, Head of the Department of Asian Studies at Kazakhstan Institute for Strategic Studies under the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, studied at L.N. Gumilyov Eurasian National University with a degree in international relations, and a bachelor and master PhD. He has over 20 publications, scientific journals, mainly in Kazakhstan, Russia, Turkey, focused on middle power foreign policy behavior, soft power, information and communication policy, political technologies. And my name is Baban, and I would like to make a short opening speech and give the floor to the speakers. And humanitarian security suggests that public policy should first of all focus on the problems of personal security, well-being, and dignity of individuals and communities, and offers an important alternative understanding to the national security approach. Although the discussions on this concept go back to the 1940s, it started to be mentioned seriously on the occasion of the Human Development Report of the United Nations Development Program date 1994. In the report, economic security, food security, health security, environmental security, personal security, community security, and political security were specified as the 7 components of human security, and the goal was to remove the approach to the concept of security from the traditionalist framework of state security against military threats. As a concept, it is based on 3 main principles: freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom to live with dignity. Freedom from fear means the protection of individuals against violent conflicts caused by poverty and inequality. It highlights solutions such as emergency assistance in case of danger, conflict prevention and resolution, and peace building. On the issues related to natural disasters, epidemics, and famine, more people are affected than conflicts, and it is the principle of freedom from poverty that leads to sustainable development. Individual and social rights are the main components for the freedom to live with dignity. It is also distinctly understood from these principles that humanitarian security includes the mutual relationship between development, national security, and human rights. As can be seen, the concept of human security offers a very broad perspective. We can say that the crises in the world and all the problems we are trying to cope with are based on the motive of protecting main nature, the world, which is the home where we live. Unfortunately, we know that the same crises and the problems we are trying to cope with are also human caused. Ensuring humanitarian security also requires working in corporations on many issues. And now, Dr. Recep Şehitoğlu. The floor is yours. We are listening to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chairwoman. I will go through with my presentation if I succeed in open. Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank the Directorate of Communication to invite me this wonderful event. It is an honor for me to be in Istanbul in this event. So in this session, I would like to go through the role of the universities in the context of human security and the times of disaster and crisis. And my example will be on Gaziantep University because I'm living in Gaziantep since 1.5 years. I was used to live in Istanbul, but for my academic position, I had to transfer to Gaziantep. But in the earthquake time, in February 6, I was there, and I have lived the two biggest earthquakes. 7.7 and 7.7 and 7.6. So why I chose this topic, because as Gaziantep University, we were in the area and we were we had very hard working for the earthquake the affected people. So my concept of presentation will be on humanitarian security, what is and what is purposes, and how the humanitarian security in February 6 earthquakes will be important. And the Gaziantep University example also, I will talk about the university that how we worked, and I will give in the end of my presentation some recommendation to the policymakers and the universities as well as the Turkish higher education. Yes. In my theoretical perspective, I would like to say that the humanitarian security is all about the personal security, welfare and issues of dignity. It is also related with some personal security as well, because if we compare to the traditional security with the humanitarian security, we will see the two differences. In traditional security perspective, the main concern is state, the nation state, but in the humanitarian security, the main concern is individuals. So that natural crisis, natural disasters and crisis brings us a very important view of the personal security, in individual way. So in traditional security, we see that the integrity of the state is protected, should be protected, must be protected. And in the humanitarian security is the main concern, is the integrity of the individual, must be protected. And the concept of human security, there are seven topics. I don't want to go each of them directly, but some of them is related to my topic. I mean, the education of poverty is very important point for my presentation, because in the time of February 6 earthquakes, the main problem arose in educational side, because we had to transfer our face-to-face education to the online education. So for the online education in the natural crisis time, and in earthquake time, in crisis, disaster and crisis, you have to be careful about continuing of education. And the other is when we see the threats of the traditional security and humanitarian security, there's two different. I mean, one is for the conflict between the states, the main concern of the traditional security. I mean, the nation state should be focused on, because there are too much conflict, because we do know that international relations is a chaotic environment. So every state should be focused on their nation security. I mean, some of the perspective on international relations, we see that the armament, nuclear armament, and the security of hard power, I mean, to provide the hard power is so important when we talk about the nation states. But the key threats for the human security is something different. One is infectious diseases, the important one, the poverty and the violence as well, and the intrastate conflicts, not international, interstate, it is intrastate, because state and state conflicts are very important key threats for the human security as well. And there is also three different principles, which is the second one is important for the earthquakes. It is freedom from poverty. Because maybe we heard that in the February 6 earthquakes, the earthquakes makes people from the rich to the poor, because we say that at one night in the event of earthquake, after the earthquake, everyone was poor, because you lost your houses, you lost your cars, you lost your too many things, because you were only alive if you alive it, because too much people also lost their wives, husbands, children, and parents as well. So that's in three perspectives. With the second one is also important for the natural disasters and crises. As these three components suggest us that human security focuses on interrelationships between the development and national security and human rights, which is very also important. And there are 7 main components as well of the humanitarian security: the economic, food, health, environment, and personal security as well, because the personal security is also important for the national disasters time, because if you lost your houses, it means that you are homeless and you have to stay at some very safe place with the conditions of the weathers as well, because at February 6, it was a winter time, and in Gaziantep as well, and not only in Gaziantep, because 11 cities which affected from the earthquake, all the seasons, the cities are affected with the snow, and plus the rainy and the cold weather as well. Yes, this is also some other features of the humanitarian security: universal concern, independency. I will not go through each details, because I have to obey to my time. And I will go through to the earthquakes time. 7.7 and 7.6 was the magnitudes of the earthquakes, which we say that the hundreds, the centuries that you can face by centuries, earthquakes. It was very hard to live there. It was affected. It is affected 11 provinces and more than 13.5 million people, I'm sorry. And at the first night, the problem was after earthquake was warming, sheltering, and the food and clothes. Clothes was the first, the fourth important elements of the victims. Yes, in this time, the natural disasters and crises, you have to, it brings us some duties and responsibilities. Some of them thought that there are certain duties and responsibilities to a public institution, the governmental institutions and organizations, which is also important, to the individuals, to non-governmental organizations, to the universities, and to academics, to individuals, to business people, and the municipalities also as well. It is going to be a certain duties and responsibilities must done, by this list. And I will go through to responsibilities of the universities, which is my example. At the time after earthquake, in the morning time, we have, as Gaziantep University, we have just opened our all open areas to the victims. And we opened our student activity center in Durjum. There is also a mosque in our university. We already opened the mosque as well because we had to bring the people. And it was the number of the victims that we invited in our university was around more than 13,000, which is our academic and administrative staffs with their family. We also opened our doors to the people of Gaziantep as well. So we opened our faculties and other open areas to give them a place to stay and to give them a breakfast and dinner as well. So the services that we offered at allocated spaces was also diapers and baby foods, wet wipes, and fruit juice as well to the children. It was also for the blankets and beds. Yes, human security in 6th February in Gaziantep, we already created a crisis desk, which is we didn't wait for the AFAD to lead us. Thanks to our rector, I'm honored that to be working with our rector, Professor Arif Özaydın, because in the first hours of the after earthquake, we have just as I told, we opened our doors. And we also set a crisis desk, and our rector gives and created a commissions to work very fast. So we did damage assessments for the buildings. Maybe we can, had some buildings collapsed and destroyed. And then secondly, we had to, check our central heat plant because it was winter time when you have to give a heater, the warm places to the victims. And then we also checked the electrical transformers, and water leak also maybe can be damaged because in some other cities, except from Gaziantep city center, there were too much damages in electrical side and the central heat system, and there is also too much water leaks in the other cities. In the earthquake, actually in Gaziantep, in the city center, we had not too much destroyed buildings. It was around 20 and 30, but our counties, which is Nurdağı and Islahiye, was the biggest one affected. So I think the number says that it was about 80 to 90% of the cities were collapsed, were destroyed. So right now the governments are going to move the county center to another places, which is very close to mountains area. And for this campus security, because we have invited 13,000, more than 13,000 people, so there's a big problem for the security because some bad things also happens in natural disasters and crises. We just heard from the news. And for the Gaziantep University, we had a hospital. I mean, the research hospital belongs to our university. We also opened our, hospital because the people were affected from the destroyed, buildings. Not only in Gaziantep, but also the other cities, the collapsed cities. Victims were also transferred to our universities, and we gave them very good health services. And some of them I can list you. That there's also some of the services left. We own emergency rooms and orthopedics and general surgeries because we have already operated too much. Operation have been done. And plus also Gaziantep, as Gaziantep University, that was not only in the campuses we just did. We also worked very hard in humanitarian aid side, because in Gaziantep city and the other cities as well, we just send them the food, send them the blankets, heaters, because it was. I do not understand how it happened. Too much people from Istanbul, Denizli, Bursa, and Izmir and Ankara, they just contacted with us. They are saying that we have just sent some trucks, water trucks, bread trucks, and some food trucks. Just take them and distribute them. For myself, I transferred, 600 people for 600 people in some cities which is very near to our campuses, food. I did myself. That is also gives you an opportunity to help the victims. And there is also some list of the aid in kind offered by our universities. This is the numbers are only for 1 month. It is still continuing, and for my end of the presentation, I had to give some recommendations to the policymakers and the universities and plus the higher education, because we were not ready to face that kind of big, the bigger earthquakes. So there should be done some things. The campus requirement should be imposed on all newly opened universities, because we have some universities in Istanbul, including private ones. There are only 2 or 3 buildings. But you cannot offer them the campuses, because as I know that in Istanbul we have 62 universities. So much of them does not have any campuses. So we need to have campuses which the universities are newly opened. It will be must, because in the natural disasters times and crisis, you need a place to bring the people, to feed the people. To provide them safe places. The secondly, universities that do not offer dormitory facilities and guest houses. Every university should have dormitory providing to their students and their academics and the administrative staff. It must. And thirdly, all existing and newly opened universities should be required to have a guest house as well, because we need it at that time. Actually, at Gaziantep University, we had very good hotel, which belongs to our tourism faculty. So there were too much beds that we provided to AFAD officials and the ministry personnel as well. They stayed in our hotels, and every day, every morning, they did breakfast and they go to the area, and they go to Hatay, they go to Adana, they go to Maraş, and they go to Adıyaman as well. But the place that we had, as hotel, it was not damaged, and it was very useful for the officials. And the fourth, the existing universities, nations and state universities should also be required to have dormitories as well. That's my second as well. And the kindergartens, primary schools, the secondary schools should be included in the campuses. Because at that time, we didn't know that there were no any school opened. I mean, some schools are damaged, but the others were not. If you have a good campuses with well done buildings, which is which cannot be destroyed. I mean, 9.0 plus the magnitudes. That is also going to be a good services to provide your people. And the recommendation for the universities and high schools, if I can move. Yeah. As with the appointment of the coordinator governor at the earthquake times, it should be a coordinator rectors as well. Because we, as government, the Turkey state, has just provided a governors, I mean the coordinator governors to each places. I mean each cities has a coordinator rector, coordinator governor, but in the counties there was also coordinator, we say in Turkish, kaymakam, and the state personnel. The second one, the rectors in each province should have taken an active role in the provisional disaster coordination center. We say il-afat yönetimi. You know, at that management, the directors should be and must be a member of that. The third one, disaster management courses, I mean, it is very important, could be added as compulsory course at all departments, not only one or two, or not only for the engineering, all the departments. The courses of disaster management should be compulsory. And fourth one, when determining sister universities, those with suitable infrastructure and superstructure should be preferred, because after earthquakes, we didn't know that which universities are suitable to accept the victims' students from the earthquake area. And drills should be carried out by regular intervals with the coordination of AFAD every period. It should be in periodically. I mean, research and rescue teams in the faculties should be also established, because all faculties in earthquake times, we just opened it, and some of our personnel, I mean, academics and the administrative personnel were also in danger, because some of them lost their family members as well. But the other team which alive, that there should be a crisis, I mean, research and rescue teams as well. Emergency response team. And the technical equipment in the cafeterias should be also designated according with coordination. For example, the conversion of natural gas fired stoves in the cylinders. Because we, as Gaziantep University, we just saw that our cafeterias, I mean, main place to eat for the students and the academics and administrative staffs, that some equipments are very old tradition, but if you lose your natural gas, I mean, you have to use the other equipments as well. You have to transfer. It will be transferable. And also for international students side, we have to use them as more efficiently, because some of international students were in the area. I mean, I give you an example. I was former international student coordinator at Fatih Sultan Mehmet Vakıf University before my this position. I was in administrative side, and I was the responsible for the international students. And I saw a student of mine from Gambia, and he was in Adıyaman to make some translation to his team, I mean, to his country's team. So it should be also used very efficiently for the international students. And for my last recommendation, students also could attend the courses in their own department by going to universities designated. It should be automatically. You don't have to wait any decision made by government or higher education. It could be also possible for the professors who left the cities to take classes at the universities in the city they went. This is also very important. One of my colleague academics, Mr. Kaan Kutluataş, assistant professor, he works at Mersin University. Just after 4 hours after the earthquakes, he just called me, and he invited me to his office, to use his office in Mersin University, and he also invited with my family as well. So it is very important for the academics, because the solidarity between the academics and administrative staffs, all university personalities are also important. You don't have to wait any decision. My time is going. In 2 minutes, I will finish it. And the office opportunities also could be offered. And many professors, books, materials in the area, in the 11 cities area, and they lost their computers, and they lost their laboratory facilities, which were left under the rubble, and these could be also compensated. Because too much professors has just left the city. I mean, I have also a friend of mine, he works at İnönü University, I mean in Malatya, his associate degree. He went to Ankara, and then we just converted our education from face-to-face to online. He had to give a lecture. He didn't have any computer or laptop or anything to teach, to continue education. This is very also important for the higher education to provide. It should be provided. Yeah, this is also my last words. Thank you so much for your listening.
Dr. Şehitoğlu, you shared very important information and suggestions. And Farrukh Khakimov, Mr. Farrukh Khakimov, the floor is you. We are listening to you.
Is it on?
Okay.
Thank you. First of all, I should express my gratitude to the organizers, to the Directorate of the Communications. We're very happy that the conference in its first day and the current session is very informative. I should also thank our first speaker, professor from Gaziantep University. He gave good theoretical explanation of the topic, humanitarian security, with practical information from the earthquake which has happened in February. Indeed, the natural disasters and the effective management of such a threats is very important for countries, especially for Uzbekistan as well, which is located in Central Asia, located in the very center of the continental Eurasia. And for us, first of all, it's a global climate change and its consequences, and also on the other hand, human-caused consequences of the disasters are very important to be prepared, well prepared to prevent such kind of crises. I should mention that from the leadership change in Uzbekistan, we have a good practice of which is introduced with our current president, adopting the 5-year strategic documents. Our center, Development Strategy Center, is responsible and was established by the decree of president to monitor these national strategic documents. From 2017 and 2021, we had the action strategy for the development of Uzbekistan in the 5 priority areas. And also after the successful completion of this strategic document, last year in January 2022, we adopted the new development strategy of Uzbekistan for coming 5 years. Now we are in the 2nd year of its implementation. Why I'm referring to these documents? Because they are like a framework of the reforms in Uzbekistan, both in internal and external relations of the country. And these 2 documents were highlighted and put the objective of the current government of Uzbekistan to implement specific reforms to make the countries, increase the country's capacity to prevent natural disasters, and also to increase international collaboration. Because as it was stated that humanitarian security, especially threats, natural disasters, are in character has a non-traditional security threats, which requires first of all international cooperation because they have a transboundary character and also asymmetric. That's why every country should be well prepared. Concerning the climate change consequences, we should first of all remember that because of the both natural climate change and also misuse of Central Asia's water resources during the Soviet period, especially to grow the cotton in Central Asia, especially in Uzbekistan, we had now witnessed a very big catastrophe, natural catastrophe in Aral Sea region. That's why to mitigate the consequences of a disappearing Aral Sea was prioritized by the Uzbekistan's new government, and still consistently Uzbekistan's initiatives at national, regional and global level tries to attract international community to work on this issue. As a result, in 2017 was by the initiative of Uzbekistan, it was launched multilateral partnership fund for human security in Aral Sea region. In Aral Sea, it directly affects Uzbekistan's territory and the neighboring Kazakhstan and also Turkmenistan. So all Central Asian countries and also international community are suffering from this disappearing sea because it caused other negative consequences like dust storms and also social economic situation in the Aral Sea region. That's why special attention in the policy of Uzbekistan is given to mitigate these negative consequences, also support the people of the Aral Sea region. That's why in the Uzbekistan's reform policy, as was mentioned, in a humanitarian security, the Uzbekistan's policy shifted from state-centric approach to the people-centric approach, which has been also mentioned and highlighted Uzbekistan's new development strategy. And also recently we had successfully organized a referendum to renew our constitution, where also the human security, human interest is focused as a main priority. So that's why government especially gives good support for the Aral Sea region and also making the green all the regions of Uzbekistan. Because of the natural conditions, there is also at global level the rise of temperature. It doubles in continental Central Asia. That's why we also witness one of the main important issue is water shortage in the region. That's why it requires also for the people to save the water resources and also to the governments to effectively use and manage water resources, especially transboundary rivers. Because by the United Nations estimates by 2050, the water resources of Amudarya, which is the main river in Central Asia, will decrease up to 15%. And Sirdarya also up to 5%, which requires for these countries of 5 Central Asian countries, including other neighbors, to be more cooperative, to be more concerned of using effectively and rationally the transboundary resources of water resources. For that purpose, Uzbekistan also was initiating collaboration at regional level. Since 2017, there was a revival of regional cooperation. We can see that a consultative meeting of Central Asian countries was established and supported by our neighbors. Year by year, in every capital of Central Asia, the heads of states are gathered and to discuss and to consult regional issues and also regional cooperation. And last year, in 2022, in the fourth consultative meeting in Kyrgyzstan, countries of Central Asia adopted 2 very important documents. First is like a good neighborhood policy and cooperation in 21st century, like about the friendship of multilateral cooperation. And also the countries adopted Uzbekistan and supported Uzbekistan's initiative on Green Central Asia. So by Green Central Asia, neighboring countries are trying to consolidate their effort to make better for peoples and to also our new coming generation. In our development strategy, I mean, which has 7 priority directions and 100 specific goals, which should be achieved by 2026, and 6 priority area on Uzbekistan's approach to global challenges through its national interest. They're mentioned specifically climate change, ecological issues, protection of ecology, and also international cooperation on this issue. That's why, and also Uzbekistan as a participant country of Paris Climate Agreement since 2017 has adopted obligation to reduce its greenhouse emission by 10%, but in 2021 in Glasgow Summit of Climate Change, Uzbekistan increases its obligation and to decrease the greenhouse level from 2010 by 2030 to 35%, and by 2050 our country tries to achieve the carbon neutrality. So it also says that Uzbekistan is very concerned about the environment, about the ecology of both its country and region. Also, we have strategic objective by 2026 to increase the share of renewable energies in our energy consumption from current 20% to 25%. So renewable energy will be about 25%, which also brings to energy efficiency in a growing Uzbekistan's economy. Because of the urbanization, there is also a threat of, ineffective management situations might occur, especially if caused by earthquakes, which is very impossible to predict in advance. And also, for that purpose, Uzbekistan prioritized to green transition and make economy of national economy more diverse. So rely on not only raw materials, but also to expand its main priority sectors. In general, to achieve these national goals and also United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, both country and its neighbors are trying to consolidate their efforts. Especially, I should also mention the Uzbekistan's active participation in the organization of Turkic states. For example, in 2021 in Istanbul, in the 18th summit, presidents also adopted the Turkic Vision 2040, where also specific attention is given to the environment, protection of ecology, and also disaster management issues. Since then, countries of emergency services, ministries are cooperating very actively, and also by the initiative of Uzbekistan tries to attract countries of the Turkic states to form one institution in RLC, so to join our efforts with our partner countries in Turkic organization. So I hope if we successfully implement this kind of initiatives and implement effectively, we can be well prepared to prevent such kind of natural disasters and crises. And especially we look forward to cooperation with our neighbors, with our partner countries of Turkic organization. Thank you so much for your attention. We are open to questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Khakimov.
Khakimov. Thank you.
And Dr. Aidar Kurmashev, the floor is yours.
Hello, hello everyone, dear Professor Baban, and dear participants of this forum and roundtable. It is a great pleasure to be here today. I'd like to thank the hosts and for organizing such a wonderful event and warm welcome. Listening to the speeches of the colleagues, it was, I was able to make on some notes that are very productive and important. So I'd like to input this discussion with a view from Kazakhstan's perspective, along with the challenges and responses. It is no exaggeration that the last 3-4 years have become a turning point for many states, both security-wise and safety-wise. First it was the pandemic, then the ongoing war in Ukraine, and its geoeconomic consequences, and also this year our fraternal Turkish people have suffered from such a devastating earthquake. Now listening to Dr. Recep Şehitoğlu, it kind of reassures how big was the scale, and when you see it on the news, it's you usually think about the number of deaths, but also we have to think about the survivors. Yeah, so to be able to make them survive. Survivors survive, yeah. So it is. That's why I think that there are a lot of ways that experts community could facilitate the process of how nations can respond and be able to prevent such kind of cases and make people and the whole nation to be kind of be able to respond that kind of natural disasters and smaller ones too. I have some couple of ideas about how this process can be done. In our experience, the Kazakhstan's Institute for Strategic Studies usually kind of participates in different kind of conferences, has some roundtables with the experts, and gathers some ideas, and then we usually send it to our president, and then we have the cases as when the projects gathered, when it's calculated, when it's sought out, it is realized by the state agencies and the related companies. So that's why we have some ideas about how generally natural disasters have to be addressed. First of all, it may go without saying that it is the most important thing is assessing vulnerability to crisis and natural disasters. It is now being done by the different agencies who publish, for example, some world risk reports. For example, according to the World Risk Index, nowadays the countries with the highest risk are the Philippines, India, Indonesia, in the first top 3. 9 of the 15 countries with the highest different disaster risk are the 15 most populous countries in the world. Among them are Colombia, Mexico, Myanmar, Mozambique, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Russian Federation, Vietnam, Peru, Somalia, and Yemen. But here, what is important to understand is that it is not the only countries on top that are the only ones in danger. So this kind of rankings usually show us how many people can be affected. And if you have many people are affected, you go up the rank. But it doesn't mean that, even having like small population like Kazakhstan, for example, it's just 19 million, as one Istanbul, for example, that it doesn't mean that we are not in danger. This means all countries have to be putting efforts to be prepared. In this vein, the key areas to work on are digitalization. Yeah, it has significantly changed disaster preparedness and management. Information and communication technologies are used in all phases of disaster management for knowledge acquisition, information dissemination, communication, as well as control. For example, we use global databases for risk analysis, digital early warning systems, apps for recording damage, and communication with those affected via social media platforms. Here what is important is that we have to provide the access to ICT infrastructure and digital literacy. A lot of, for example, senior citizens nowadays, even if they use, for example, mobile phones and so on, so they use it only for some limited options, yeah, so they can like talk to the relatives and so on, but they don't use, for example, navigation systems and other things that may be vital in some emergency situations. So that's why, what I would point out here is the prioritizing locally led knowledge. Particularly, we have to focus on what ordinary citizens should do to be prepared, what to do if the disaster happens, and what to do to facilitate the process of post-disaster recovery. And sometimes people just want to be engaged, but they don't know what to do. Yeah, so they just send humanitarian aid, but probably there is a lot that could be done by those that are not affected but want to help. For this reason, I would suggest that our countries initiate realization of joint projects on state-private partnership basis in the frame of Organization of Turkic States. Our institute will be pushing this idea to be announced by our president in the upcoming summit of the organization in Astana this year, and also realization of this idea in the chairmanship of Kazakhstan next year. As Mr. Khakimov said about the Turkic vision, it already provides us the way how our countries could cooperate in this process. So that's why, we have to make it down to earth to the realization of the concrete projects on the places by real people and by real companies. So that's why I think that the work can be done and it can be accomplished. Talking about Kazakhstan's government's approach to the readiness to the natural disasters and what can be done, we can say that Kazakhstan is now experiencing, undergoing through serious challenges, both externally and internally. So that's why we are working on the systemic reforms, New Fair Kazakhstan, under which we are trying to change the way how we approach the development of the nation itself. What is important here is now the government is trying to impose the role of the subsidiarity principle. Local problems have to be solved in the by local authorities, and national issues have to be worked on governmental level. That's why the central government's role is to point the track of development towards the fields like industry, digitalization, protecting the environment, working towards the resilience to the disasters. Nowadays, since the September 2020, Kazakhstan recreated its Ministry of Emergency Situations. At the time of the pandemic, we realized that how important is this to work on the emergencies. Before that, between the 2014 and 2020, it was under the Ministry of Internal Affairs as a committee. But now it is working as a independent ministry, and according to its information, in 1 year alone, we had about 13,000 emergencies. And about 2,000 people were injured, and 663 people have passed. Of course, the vast majority of this 13,000 emergencies were small man-made emergencies, including fires. The common causes of this were the violation of the rules of installation of electrical equipment and careless handling of fire and that kind of stuff. But what is important to understand here, we shouldn't underestimate the role of that kind of even like small emergencies, how it may be affected to some bigger fires and so on. So that's why the ministry is now trying to work on with the population by driving some kind of informational materials through in the media. In the 2022, about 100,000 materials were distributed, and some of them were in print media, on radio and internet news agencies. Yet we have to say that it is not enough, and we haven't yet adopted some kind of national strategy towards how to work on this kind of emergencies. We don't have a complex strategic document that outlines systemic work that prepares Kazakhstani citizens to natural disasters. So I think, your ideas and your ideas are very helpful in like our work as the strategic studies institutes. We have to work together to send it to our governments so that concrete work can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Şehitoğlu, Mr. Khakimov, and Mr. Kurmashev. Our season is over, and many thanks to our participants. And for lunch, I will give lunch will be in front of the ballroom.